You ever seen the game Wheel of Fortune on TV? Little Pat Sajak, Vanna White. uh, and how when it lands on, they spin and spin, and you're like, you're going to get the prize, they're going to get the prize. Ah, it's bankrupt. And the energy, the whole place just, ah. And at home in your living room, you just go, ah. Well, the Major Arcana in Tarot is kind of like that. In fact, there is a Wheel of Fortune card in there. This is a collective universal energy wherein we all experience those moments. And that is the topic of today's Expedition to Soul podcast. We know that you were born magical. We know that you are intuitive, and we know that you are brimming with everyday enchantment. Here at the Sisters Enchanted, we believe in intention, we believe in intuition, and we believe in everyday magic. Welcome in to the Expedition to Soul podcast. Welcome in. I'm Sarah, founder of the Sisters Enchanted. This is part 5 of our special tarot series here on the podcast. We haven't talked tarot in a long time on the Expedition to Soul podcast, at least not as a topic like we're doing here. So I'm excited to do this with you. If you missed the first 4 episodes in the series, go back and listen in. We talk through all 4 of the minor arcana stories and the associations, from the element to the season to the expansion archetype. And today we're rounding out this special series with a little discussion on the Major Arcana. Now, the Major Arcana, it is twice the size of a tarot minor arcana suit in terms of number of cards. So we're not going to talk through the whole thing. We actually have podcast episodes where you can go hear some of that discussion and really learn about each card in depth. So be sure to go back to some of our earlier episodes and listen into those tarot stories where we talk about every single card in the deck. But today we want to talk more about the universal theme that we all experience within the Major Arcana. So the Major Arcana tells about, it's the Fool's journey. So the Fool is the 0 card. It's the first card in the story. And it's this figure, this person who's about to step off of a cliff into the unknown, but they don't seem bothered by it. They're just like, oh, here I go. So you can liken this sort of to being born into the world, and just you're born into the world. You don't know what's going to happen, but there you are. We all experience that. So the first half of the Major Arcana really speaks to that idea of being born into the world, having authority figures, meeting society. And card number 10 is the Wheel of Fortune. So you think about, who you are has been put into you through a collection of experiences early in life. What different teachers told you about you, what your parents told you about you, or your caregivers, whoever the people that raised you. You're influenced by the society and the environment that you are born into, that you live in. And then the Wheel of Fortune spins. What's going to happen next? Where are you going to land? Nobody knows. So we all relate to that, though, right? We're all influenced by the people who raise us, by the stories that we're told, the way we perceive the world around us based on the way things are said to us, the values driven into us. We are all developed based on, we're all a creature of the various things that came together to create us into who we are. Then we spin the Wheel of Fortune and see what happens for us next. So that's the first half of the Major Arcana. Now, the thing about the Major Arcana is that it really aligns with collective universal energy. Everybody experiences the themes, the stories, the major turning points that happen in the Major Arcana. We can all relate to them regardless of who we are, our life circumstance. We all experience the different things that happen in the Major Arcana. They are major events in the life. They're big themes. They're not flash in the pan events. It's like the pieces rooted within us, right? Now, in our expansion archetypes, we have the Seer. The Seer is a small group of people who take the quiz, get the Seer. The Dreamer is the smallest. The next is the Seer. And when we look at associations for the different archetypes, I associate the Major Arcana with the Seer. And that is because the Seer is really, able to connect and disconnect very quickly. and can tap into the energy of the collective or tap out very quickly. The seer is both very vulnerable in that they don't want to be seen, and yet they are also wanting to be seen and acknowledged all at the same time. And so for the seer, a lot of their sabotage, the things that they would want to work on or acknowledge, or sort of how they create but then sabotage at the same time, comes from major life themes, not small personality traits. And that becomes, those themes become their personality traits. So the seer really is this collective energy, and they can turn it on and turn it off just as quickly. They can tap into and put on sort of the mask of any of the archetypes, but then shut that door and do the next one. And so this is like a big energy. It's a big, uh, I don't want to say like a big take up space energy, like a person who walks in a room and you're like, oh, that person's arrived. It's more like a deep feeling sort of energy. In our 5 eye expansion framework, the fifth eye is intuition. And the more that you get to know the stories of the minor arcana, the more that you get to know the first 4 eyes in that framework, and you know the details of the stories, of your emotions, of your perception, of your behaviors and your experiences, the more you know that, the more quickly you can lean into your intuition to hear the next right step forward on your path through life, on your path through the fool's journey. So the more you look at those smaller details, those minor arcana stories within yourself, the more clear you the more clear the future will become for you. The better able you will be to hear your intuition, make aligned decisions, and take action on them. And that's the major arcana. These are the big things that define who we are and who we will be, right? The second half of the major arcana, it starts with the justice card. And the justice card is really about we know justice, like that justice will be served, but also how are you being doing justice to yourself? How are your thoughts doing justice to yourself, or how are you not doing justice to yourself based on the decisions you're making, the thoughts that you're having? So the wheel of fortune spins, and then where do you land? Is it a place of balance? Is it a place where you're doing justice to yourself in your life and to those around you, to the world at large, right? The second half of the major arcana, while the first half is a lot about like growing into life and those initial experiences who make you who you are, the second is really about transformation. It's about the big experiences. We have temperance, we have death, we have the devil, we have the tower, we have the star, the moon, the sun, judgment. It's like the big things that you experience once you are, into adulthood and actually moving through the world of your own accord and having to experience transformation and change and ending of cycles and what that looks like for the next, and finding hope again, and who am I and who am I not. That is the second half of the major arcana. And the seer and our expansion archetypes can really, again, just feel into that energy, because those big themes and how we we move through those big themes in life again and again and again in different ways, and the seer can quickly open that door and close that door and open that door and close that door. And that can make being a seer quite the experience, because you're always like 1 foot here, 1 foot, what's next, 1 foot in like dreaming world and 1 foot in the present reality. But it's centered on this big universal connectedness. And a seer really can be connected to people around them, to experiences, to emotion. And so, sort of shutting that off and closing off and going inward is a great way for a seer to sort of protect themselves and their energy as well. In the major arcana, it is these big universal themes. We can all relate to them. We all experience them. It's the story of every single one of us. It's my contention, though, that we really want to learn the minor arcana stories. When we learn those stories, those are the fine details of us, of how we're living life right now, that impact our next step on the fool's journey. So a lot of people really focus on teaching that major arcana, or like memorizing those cards and that journey. And it's a beautiful story. So definitely learn it. And though, if you pull the tower card and that's like sudden chaos, upheaval, that's all well and good. But what's life look like right now? Are you perceiving life that way? Is it your behavior that's making life that way? Is it your emotions? And that all comes from the minor arcana, those fine details. So we want to learn that. And that's why those 4 minor arcana suits, they align to the first 4 eyes in our expansion framework. And the 5th eye is this big story. It's intuition. It's the story of the fool's journey, because all those details allow you to see more clearly what your intuition is telling you, to hear it, to receive that information. Without those details, it's not helpful. So we start there. And our seers, our seer people, if you're a seer and you're listening to this, you are that big energy. Your life might feel like a series of big defining moments over and over and over again. uh, and that's the beauty of a seer, though, is that you can hold that bigness, but also you might need to close the door on that bigness and be seen for who you are, and then might be scared of being seen for who you are. And with the major arcana, if we get some of these like big cards, like transformation cards, like the Tower or the Devil, um, Temperance, any of these cards that really require like a big move on your part, that's scary because people are going to see you. You're going to be vulnerable. And that all happens in that second half of the story. So, yeah, that's the major arcana for you. It's universal energy. If we take all the minor arcana together, that's the elemental energy, right? And then the universal energy, the collective of that, is the experience everything shares. It's the collective experience. A great way to look at this too is the northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere have opposite seasons, right? But we share that collective energy of experiencing those seasons, so we can relate to each other. And while the different minor arcana stories represent different bits of information, they share the collective experience of the fool's journey. So we have all of these experiences that are separate, but part of one universal experience. And the major arcana is a universal experience. We all share the story of the fool's journey. But just how foolish are we is the question. No, I'm just kidding. All right, then. So there you go. That's a special tarot series for you. We looked at tarot through the lens of story and elements and the expansion archetypes, and just how we receive the stories and what they mean for us. We have tons of tarot resources here on the podcast, on our blog. Oh, my my Apple Watch keeps talking to me while I am just talking. I got to figure out what I'm doing to make it happen, because it never used to do that. Anyway, you just heard from Siri over there joining in on the conversation. The second time today. We've got the resources on the blog, on the podcast for you. Over on YouTube, there's some resources. So definitely check out if you want more information on tarot. We've got all kinds of places for you to start. If you want to learn more about those expansion archetypes, be sure to join us at signup.thesistersenchanted.com/magic week. And we can get you in on that action and learn your expansion archetype and dive into tarot even deeper for yourself. But for now, go back and listen to the first 4 in this series if you missed it. Get out your major arcana, lay it out in order, and walk yourself through that story as if you're walking through the story. That's a great way to learn it. And until next time, I hope that you have an enchanted rest of your day ahead. Bye. If you liked this episode of the Expedition to Soul podcast, please rate, review, subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, it will really help us spread everyday magic, intention, and intuition to the masses, and helps us so much as a small business. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If there's any topics you'd want to hear, anything you want us to dive deeper into, shoot us an email at magic@thesistersenchanted.com. And as always, thank you so much for listening and being part of the community here at the Sisters Enchanted. And we'll see you in the next episode.